Captain Taeho Kim was drinking his morning coffee when the alarm bells started ringing. He put down his cup and ran to the bridge of his ship, the New Soul. His crew was already there looking at the main screen with worried faces. "What is it?" Taeho asked his second officer, Lieutenant Bora Seo. "Unknown ship approaching, Captain," she said. "It's big. Really big." Taeho looked at the screen. The ship was unlike anything he had ever seen. It was 3 times larger than their biggest warships back on Earth. Its hull was black and shiny, with strange symbols glowing along its sides. The ship moved without making any sound that their sensors could pick up. "Are they trying to talk to us?" Taeho asked. "Yes, sir. They're sending a message," said Communications Officer Jinwoo Nam. "It's coming in on all frequencies. Put it on screen." The main display changed. A figure appeared that made everyone on the bridge step back. It was tall and thin, with blue-gray skin and 4 arms. Its eyes were large and black, and when it spoke, its voice was cold and hard. "I am Imperial Legate Vexthara of the Valaxian Empire," the alien said. "You will listen to what I have to say." Taeho straightened his uniform. "This is Captain Taeho Kim of the Earth vessel New Soul. We're listening." The alien's mouth curved in what might have been a smile, but it looked more like a threat. "Your species has been watched and studied. We know about your small colonies, your primitive ships, and your simple weapons. The Empire has decided that your kind might be useful to us." "Useful how?" Taeho asked, though he was already getting a bad feeling about this. "As workers, as servants. Your people will report to designated worlds for processing. You will be given new homes, new jobs, and new purposes. In return, you will serve the Empire with loyalty and gratitude." The bridge was silent. Taeho could feel his crew's anger growing behind him. "And if we refuse?" Vexthara's forearms spread wide. "Refusal is not an option. The Empire has conquered 17 star systems. Billions of beings now live better lives under our guidance. Your small human civilization will be no different. We need time to discuss this with our government," Taeho said carefully. "You have 30 of your days. After that, the Imperial fleet will arrive to ensure compliance. Do not test our patience, Captain. We are offering you a gift. The chance to join something greater than your primitive world. Most species require much more convincing." The transmission ended. The alien ship turned and disappeared in a flash of light that hurt to look at. Back on Earth, Admiral Soo-Jin Park was having the worst day of her career. She sat in the emergency meeting room deep under the capital city, surrounded by politicians, generals, and scientists. Everyone was talking at once. "We have to negotiate," said Defense Minister Woo Jin-lee. "This empire has 17 star systems. We have 1 system and a few small colonies. The math is simple." "The math is not the problem," said General Min Ho-yoon, slamming his hand on the table. "The problem is what they want to do to us. They want to make us slaves." Dr. Hyewan Choi cleared her throat. She was a small woman, but when she spoke, everyone listened. "I've been studying the data we received about this empire. What I found is troubling." She pressed a button and images appeared on the wall screen. "These are species that the Empire conquered before. Look at the before and after pictures." The room went quiet. The before pictures showed different alien races, some that looked almost human, others that were very different. But they all looked healthy and strong. The after pictures were horrible. The same species looked broken, changed, wrong. "They don't just make them into workers," Dr. Choi continued. "They change them. Genetically, mentally. They remove everything that made each species special and unique. They turn them into perfect servants who can't even remember what they used to be." President Dayun Shin looked pale. "How long do we have?" 30 days, Admiral Park said. "That's what they told Captain Kim. Can we fight them?" asked General Yoon. "With what?" Minister Lee shot back. "Our best ships are flying museums compared to what we just saw. Their smallest fighter could probably destroy our biggest warship. So we just give up." Colonel Hyun Soo Jang stood up. He was young for his rank, but he had fought in the colony wars. "We just hand over our children to be turned into alien pets?" The argument went on for hours. Some wanted to surrender and hope for mercy. Others wanted to fight even if it meant dying. A few suggested running, loading up ships and fleeing to the far edges of space. Finally, Ambassador Chan Woo Lim spoke up. He was an old man who had spent his life solving problems with words instead of weapons. "There is another option," he said quietly. Everyone turned to look at him. "We tell them no," he said simply. "Not with threats, not with insults. We just politely decline their offer and see what they do next." "That's suicide," Minister Lee said. Maybe, Ambassador Lim replied. But it's honest suicide. And sometimes being honest is the only choice that matters. The vote was close, very close. But in the end, they decided to follow Ambassador Lim's advice. 3 days later, Captain Tae-ho Kim was back in space when another Imperial ship appeared. This time he was ready for them. "This is Ambassador Chan-woo Lim of Earth," came the transmission. The old man appeared on screen, wearing his best diplomatic clothes. "We have considered your generous offer. We must respectfully decline. Humanity chooses to remain independent." The Imperial response was swift. A different alien appeared, this one with red skin and 6 eyes. "I am Admiral Korvax the Merciless. Your refusal has been noted. In 27 days, the Imperial fleet will arrive at your homeworld. You will have one final chance to surrender. If you refuse again, your species will be eliminated rather than enslaved. This is our gift to you, a clean death instead of the slow process of conquest." The transmission ended. Captain Tae-ho Kim looked around his bridge. His crew looked scared, but they also looked determined. "Well," he said, trying to sound calm, "I guess we better get ready for visitors." Lieutenant Boraseo checked her weapon systems. "Should we head home, Captain?" Tae-ho thought about it. Earth would need every ship, every person who could fight, but they also needed to know what they were up against. "No," he said finally. "We stay here, we watch. We learn everything we can about these Imperial ships. If we're going to fight them, we need to know how they work." His crew nodded. They had 27 days to figure out how to fight gods. The countdown to war had begun. Admiral Korvax the Merciless stood in his command center, looking at the holographic display of the human star system. Around him, his staff officers pointed at different planets and moons, marking targets and discussing strategy. "Show me their military strength again," Korvax said to his intelligence officer, General Thysakar. The display changed to show human ships and space stations. General Thysakar pointed with one of his tentacles. "They have approximately 200 combat vessels, Admiral. Most are converted civilian ships. Their largest warship is smaller than our escort fighters." Another officer laughed. "Their weapons are primitive kinetic projectiles and basic fusion warheads. Our shields will not even notice such attacks." Korvax studied the data. He had conquered 12 worlds for the Empire. He had seen brave species and cowardly ones, advanced civilizations and primitive tribes. These humans seemed to fall somewhere in the middle. Not advanced enough to be a real threat, but not primitive enough to be completely helpless. "What about their defensive positions?" he asked. "Minimal," General Thysakar replied. "A few orbital platforms around their homeworld. Some asteroid mining stations that they are trying to convert into fortresses. Nothing that our particle beam weapons cannot destroy in minutes. How long for complete pacification?" 3 days, Admiral. Possibly less if they surrender after we destroy their orbital defenses." Korvax nodded. It would be one of his easier conquests. "Prepare the demonstration fleet. 12 dreadnoughts should be sufficient. We will crush their outer defenses first, then offer them one final chance to surrender." Meanwhile, on Earth and its colonies, humans were working like they had never worked before. In shipyards across the solar system, engineers raced to convert civilian vessels into warships. Dr. Da Yun-shin led teams of technicians who had not slept in days. "We need more missile tubes on this cargo hauler," she told her team, pointing at the blueprints. "I don't care if it looks ugly. I care if it can hurt the enemy." Her assistant, Engineer So-young Kim, looked worried. "Doctor, these ships were not designed for combat. The stress of firing heavy weapons might tear them apart. Then we designed them to fire once and hit hard," Dr. Shin replied. "If a ship can take out one enemy vessel before it dies, that's a victory." Across the system, similar scenes played out. Asteroid miners like Captain Jin Woo Nam found their boring equipment being replaced with military hardware. "They want us to turn our mining ship into a weapon," he told his crew. "Anyone who wants to leave can do so now. No shame in it." Nobody left. On the military side, General Min Ho-yoon was training new pilots as fast as possible. Most had never been in combat before. Some had barely been in space. "Listen carefully," he told a group of young pilots. "You are not going to survive this war by being better pilots than the enemy. Their ships are faster and stronger than ours. You are going to survive by being smarter and by working together." Pilot Yoonji Kang raised her hand. "Sir, how do we fight something we cannot match?" "By not fighting fair," General Yoon replied. "They expect us to line up our ships and have a proper battle. Instead, we hit them from unexpected directions. We use asteroids for cover. We make them come to us where we choose the battlefield. The training continued day and night. Humans learned to fly in swarms, coordinating attacks through tight beam communications that the enemy might not detect. They practiced ramming attacks, knowing that some pilots would not come home. When the Imperial demonstration fleet arrived at Titan Station, Commander Yunji Kang was ready for them. She had been promoted from pilot to commander of the station's defense force, 30 converted mining ships and a handful of actual military vessels. The Imperial ships were beautiful and terrifying. They moved through space like sharks through water, their hulls gleaming with energy shields that bent light around them. Each ship was the size of a city, bristling with weapons that could crack a moon. "All ships, this is Commander Kang," she said into her radio. "Remember the plan. We do not try to win this fight. We try to learn from it. Watch how they move, how they shoot, how they defend. Every piece of information we gather might save Earth." The Imperial Commander Vorthak sent the standard surrender demand. When Commander Kang politely refused, the attack began. It was like watching gods fight mortals. The Imperial ships moved faster than anything humans had built. Their particle beam weapons reached across space to slice through human ships like cutting paper. When the humans fired back, their missiles and projectiles simply bounced off energy shields. But the humans did not run. Commander Kang watched as Captain Dong Min Cho flew his converted freighter directly at an Imperial dreadnought, firing everything he had. The enemy shields held, but Captain Cho kept coming. At the last moment, he activated his ship's fusion engine overload. The explosion was small compared to the Imperial ship, but it was right against their hull. For just a moment, their shields flickered. "Did you see that?" Commander Kang shouted into her radio. "Their shields have limits. They can be overloaded." More human ships pressed their attacks. Pilot So Young Kim flew her fighter through a debris field, using the wreckage of destroyed ships as cover. When she emerged behind an Imperial vessel, she fired her entire missile load at point-blank range before their gunners could track her. Again, the shields held, but they flickered. Dr. Youngsik Bay was watching the battle from Earth through telescopes and sensor arrays. As ships died and data flowed in, he began to see a pattern. "The shields are calibrated for energy weapons," he told Admiral Soo-Jin Park over the communication link. "They expect particle beams and plasma cannons. But look at this data from the kinetic impacts." Admiral Park studied the readings. "The shields are weaker against physical projectiles. Much weaker. It's like they designed their defenses to stop energy attacks and forgot that sometimes the old ways work better." The battle at Titan Station lasted 6 hours. When it was over, 28 human ships were destroyed, but 3 Imperial vessels had taken damage, and 1 had been forced to withdraw for repairs. Most importantly, the humans had learned something crucial. The Empire's greatest strength, their advanced technology, was also a weakness. They had become so focused on sophisticated weapons that they had forgotten to defend against simple ones. Admiral Korvax received the battle report with confusion and anger. His demonstration fleet had won, but they had taken casualties against primitive humans. This was not supposed to happen. "How did we lose a ship to these barbarians?" he demanded. General Tissikar looked uncomfortable. "They used crude ramming attacks and kinetic weapons, Admiral. Our shields were not calibrated for such primitive tactics. Recalibrate them." "Yes, Admiral. But there's another problem. The humans did not surrender after we destroyed their station. According to our intercepted communications, they are calling the battle a victory." Korvax could not understand this. The humans had lost more ships and had been driven from their position. How could they call that a victory? He did not understand that humans measured victory differently. For them, learning how to hurt the enemy was worth any cost. "Send word to the Emperor," Korvax said finally. "Request the Grand Fleet. These humans are more troublesome than expected." Back on Earth, Dr. Youngsik Bay was working with a new sense of urgency. He had 3 weeks to design weapons that could punch through Imperial shields. Around him, factories that had made farming equipment were now producing ammunition. Shipyards that had built passenger liners were now building weapons of war. The humans had learned something important at Titan Station. The Empire could be hurt. Their technology had gaps. Their confidence had blind spots. Now they just had to figure out how to exploit those weaknesses before the real Imperial fleet arrived. Time was running out, but for the first time since this war began, humans had hope. Colonel Hyun-Soo Jang floated in his command pod. watching thousands of small objects move through space around him. They looked like tiny metal insects, each one no bigger than a car. His technicians called them drones, but Jiang preferred to think of them as his swarm. "How many do we have ready?" he asked his technical officer, Lieutenant Seojin Han. 15,000, Colonel. Each one carries a small kinetic warhead and basic guidance systems. They're not smart, but they don't need to be. Jiang nodded. The plan was simple, which made it beautiful. When the Imperial ships arrived, they would expect to fight other ships. Instead, they would face a cloud of tiny attackers that their sophisticated targeting systems were never designed to handle. "What about the railguns?" Jiang asked. Lieutenant Han smiled. "Dr. Bay's designs worked perfectly. We've mounted them on asteroids throughout the belt. The Empire will think they're fighting mining equipment until we start shooting." 3 weeks had passed since the battle at Titan Station. The humans had used every hour to prepare for the Imperial Grand Fleet. What they lacked in advanced technology, they made up for with creativity and determination. Dr. Youngsik Bay had become the most important person in the solar system. His discoveries about Imperial shield technology had changed everything. Working with barely any sleep, he had designed a new type of weapon, railguns that could fire tungsten rods at incredible speeds. The shields stop energy, he explained to a room full of military officers. They slow down missiles and projectiles. But they have limits. Hit them with enough kinetic force and they will fail. General Min Ho-yoon studied the weapon designs. "How much force?" "More than we can generate with conventional weapons," Dr. Bay admitted. "But these railguns use magnetic acceleration. They can fire a simple metal rod at speeds that will overwhelm any shield system." The plan that emerged was unlike anything in military history. Instead of meeting the enemy in open battle, the humans would turn their entire star system into a trap. Captain Jin Woo Nam commanded one of 50 cargo ships that had been converted into mobile weapons platforms. His ship looked like a harmless freighter, but hidden in its cargo holds were missile launchers and railgun systems. "Remember," he told his crew over the intercom, "we don't try to win a fair fight. We hit them when they're not looking, then disappear before they can hit back." Similar preparations were happening throughout the system. Asteroid mining stations became hidden fortresses. Communication satellites turned into weapon platforms. Even small research stations were equipped with surprise attacks. When the Imperial Grand Fleet finally arrived, Admiral Korvax expected to find a broken enemy waiting to surrender. Instead, his sensors showed something that confused him. "Where are their ships?" he asked General Thissakar. "Scattered throughout the system, Admiral. They appear to be hiding behind asteroids and moons." "Cowards," Korvax said with disgust. "They know they cannot face us in open battle." The Imperial fleet was impressive. 300 ships of various sizes, with the largest dreadnoughts stretching for kilometers. Their shields glowed with power, and their weapons could reduce planets to dust. Admiral Korvax gave the order to advance toward Earth. As his ships moved deeper into the human system, he felt confident that this would be over quickly. That confidence lasted exactly 17 minutes. Colonel Jiang activated Operation Swarm when the Imperial fleet reached the asteroid belt. Suddenly, space filled with tiny objects moving in complex patterns. The Imperial targeting computers tried to lock onto them, but there were too many moving too fast. "What are these things?" Admiral Korvax demanded. "Small drones, Admiral," his weapons officer replied. "Our main guns cannot target objects so small and numerous. Use our point defense systems." "We are trying, Admiral, but there are thousands of them." The drones swarmed around the Imperial ships like angry insects. Individually, they were harmless. But when hundreds of them struck the same shield generator at the same time, even Imperial technology had limits. The first shield failure happened on a destroyer at the edge of the formation. When its protective barrier collapsed, Captain Bora Seo was waiting with her converted mining ship. Her railgun fired a tungsten rod that punched through the destroyer's hull like it was made of paper. The Imperial ship exploded in a ball of flame that lit up the darkness of space. "Impossible," Admiral Korvax whispered. No primitive species had ever destroyed an Imperial warship in single combat. But the surprises were just beginning. As the Imperial fleet tried to reorganize, asteroids throughout the belt began to move. What Korvax had thought were natural space rocks revealed themselves as hidden weapons platforms. Commander Junho Ryu had spent weeks hollowing out asteroids and mounting railguns inside them. When he gave the signal, dozens of fake asteroids opened fire simultaneously. The Imperial ships found themselves under attack from every direction. Their advanced sensors, designed to track energy signatures in fast-moving ships, had trouble detecting weapons that looked like ordinary rocks until they started shooting. Lieutenant Seo Jin Han coordinated the asteroid fortress network from her command post deep inside a converted mining station. "Target the ships with damaged shields," she ordered. "Don't waste shots on full-strength targets." The tungsten rods flew across space faster than the Imperial ships could dodge. When they hit hard. Imperial armor that could withstand particle beam weapons crumpled under kinetic impact. But the humans' greatest surprise was still coming. Captain So Young. Kim commanded a squadron of stealth ships that had been hiding in the shadow of a moon. Her ships used technology borrowed from submarine warfare thermal dampening systems that made them nearly invisible to Imperial sensors. When the Imperial fleet was fully engaged with the drones and asteroid fortresses, Captain Kim led her Ghost Squadron in a flanking attack against their supply ships. "Remember," she told her pilots, "we're not trying to destroy everything. We just need to cut their supply lines and make them vulnerable." The stealth attack worked perfectly. Imperial supply vessels designed to operate safely behind their battle fleet found themselves under attack by ships that appeared out of nowhere. Within an hour, the Imperial fleet had lost most of its ammunition and fuel reserves. Admiral Korvax realized he was facing something unprecedented. These humans were not fighting like a civilized species. They used tricks, ambushes, and weapons that violated every principle of honorable warfare. "Sir," General Tissacar reported, "we have lost 47 ships and many more are damaged. The enemy continues to attack from hidden positions throughout the system." "How is this possible?" Korvax demanded. "Our technology is superior. Our ships are stronger." "Yes, Admiral, but they are not fighting our ships. They are fighting our entire fleet with their entire star system." The final blow came when Dr. Heijin Quan activated Project Prometheus. Hidden throughout the asteroid belt were nuclear mines, crude atomic weapons that the Empire had never encountered before. Imperial technology used clean fusion and antimatter. They had no experience with dirty nuclear fission. When the mines detonated, they created electromagnetic pulses that scrambled Imperial electronics. Ships that had functioned perfectly for centuries suddenly went dark as their computers crashed. The human ships, built with simpler technology and hardened against electromagnetic interference, continued to operate normally. For the first time in the battle, they had a technological advantage. Colonel Jiang pressed the attack while the Imperial ships were blind and helpless. His remaining drones converged on disabled vessels while human railguns fired continuously. By the time Admiral Korvax restored power to his flagship, he had lost over 100 ships. The Grand Fleet, pride of the Empire, was in full retreat. "Send word to the Emperor," he told his communications officer with shame in his voice. "The humans are not primitive barbarians. They are something much more dangerous." "What should I tell him, Admiral?" Korvax looked at the tactical display showing the wreckage of his fleet. "Tell him that we have found a species that fights without honor, without rules, and without mercy. Tell him that they turn their weaknesses into strengths and make weapons from garbage." He paused, then added quietly, "Tell him that they are everything the Empire is not." As the Imperial fleet limped away from the human system, scouts reported something that chilled Admiral Korvax to his core. Human ships were following them, somehow using captured Imperial technology to travel faster than light. The war was no longer coming to humanity's door. Humanity was bringing the war to the Empire. Admiral Sujin Park stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Soul's Vengeance, and watched the Imperial border fortress grow larger on the main screen. 6 months ago, she had been defending Earth from an alien invasion. Now she was leading a human fleet deep into enemy territory. The Soul's Vengeance had once been an Imperial dreadnought called the Retribution. After the battle in the asteroid belt, human engineers had spent weeks learning how to operate captured Imperial technology. It had not been easy, but humans were good at adapting. "Distance to target?" Admiral Park asked her tactical officer, Commander Taeho Kim. 2 million kilometers in closing," he replied. "Their sensors have not detected us yet." That was the beauty of human modifications to Imperial ships. The aliens built their vessels to be powerful and impressive. Humans rebuilt them to be sneaky and effective. Stealth systems borrowed from submarine technology made their ships nearly invisible until they were ready to attack. "Signal the fleet," Admiral Park ordered. Begin the assault. The Imperial border fortress was supposed to be impregnable. It guarded the main trade route between the Empire's core worlds and their outer colonies. For 1,000 years, no enemy had ever gotten close enough to threaten it. The fortress commander, Admiral Zex Malik, was drinking his morning meal when the alarm started screaming. He rushed to his command center to find his officers staring at sensor displays in confusion. "Report," he demanded. "Unknown ships approaching from multiple vectors." His sensor operator replied. "But sir, the signatures are Imperial. They appear to be our own vessels." Admiral Zex Malik studied the tactical display. The approaching ships did look like Imperial designs, but something was wrong. They moved differently, used different formations, and approached from directions that no Imperial commander would choose. "Send the identification challenge," he ordered. The response came back in perfect Imperial military code. "This is Admiral Sujin Park of the Terran Commonwealth. You are harboring vessels that attacked our homeworld. Surrender them for trial or we will take them by force." The bridge fell silent. No one had ever heard of this Terran Commonwealth, and the idea of aliens making demands of the Empire was unthinkable. "They're using our own ships against us," Admiral Zex Malik realized with growing horror. "These are the primitives from the border worlds. They captured our vessels and learned to operate them." The attack began with a tactic that no Imperial strategist had ever imagined. Human ships emerged from hyperspace at random points around the fortress, appearing and disappearing like ghosts. Each time they appeared, they fired a few shots and vanished before the fortress guns could target them. Captain Jinwoo Nam commanded one of these hit-and-run vessels. His ship, a converted Imperial frigate, popped out of hyperspace just long enough to fire a spread of kinetic projectiles at the fortress shields. "Direct hit on shield generator 7, his gunner reported. Jumping out, the ship vanished back into hyperspace before the fortress could respond. 60 seconds later, it appeared on the opposite side of the fortress and repeated the attack. This was warfare as the Empire had never seen it. Imperial ships were designed for massive fleet battles where honor and tradition mattered. Human ships fought like pirates, striking weak points and running before the enemy could hit back. Admiral Zex Malik tried to coordinate a defense, but his weapons were designed to fight other Imperial ships in predictable patterns. These human vessels appeared and disappeared randomly, never staying in one place long enough to be targeted effectively. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "we're receiving a transmission from one of the attacking ships." "Put it on screen." A human appeared on the display. She was small and looked young, but her eyes were hard with determination. "I am Captain Mi-jung Huang of the Terran Commonwealth Navy. We know you are holding prisoners from the mining world of Zerion. Release them immediately." Admiral Zex Malik was outraged. "You dare make demands of the Empire? You are nothing but primitive barbarians." Captain Huang smiled, but it was not a friendly expression. 6 months ago you would have been right, but we learned a lot from your invasion fleet. We learned how your ships work, how your weapons function, and most importantly, how your Empire treats other species. The transmission switched to show images that made Admiral Zex Malik uncomfortable. They were recordings from Zerion, showing Imperial overseers forcing alien workers to labor in dangerous conditions. The workers were thin and frightened, clearly being treated as slaves rather than citizens. "The Kethran people of Zerion asked for our help," Captain Huang continued. "We're here to give it to them." Before Admiral Zex Malik could respond, explosions rocked his fortress. Colonel Insu Yang had led a boarding party through a damaged section of the fortress hull. His Marines moved through the corridors like shadows, using captured Imperial equipment to disable security systems. "How did they get inside?" Admiral Zex Malik demanded. "Unknown, sir. Our internal sensors show multiple breaches, but they're moving too fast to track." The human boarding parties were not trying to capture the fortress. Instead, they moved directly toward the detention levels where Imperial prisoners were held. Colonel Yang's mission was simple: rescue the Kethran workers and get out before Imperial reinforcements arrived. "Here," whispered one of his Marines, Sergeant Chan Wu Lim. "I found them." The detention cells held dozens of Kethran workers, tall, thin aliens with gray skin and large eyes. They had been imprisoned for the crime of asking for better working conditions. "We're here to help," Colonel Yang told them in their own language. Human diplomats had been secretly learning the languages of Imperial subject species, preparing for exactly this kind of operation. The Kethrans looked confused and frightened. They had never seen humans before, but they had heard rumors of the species that had fought the Empire and won. "You are the ones who defeated the Imperial fleet?" asked one of the Kethrans, who seemed to be their leader. "We are," Colonel Yang replied, "and we're offering you the same choice we made, freedom or slavery. But you have to choose for yourselves." The rescue operation took only 30 minutes. By the time Admiral Zexmulik realized what was happening, the human ships were already retreating with their rescued prisoners. But the real impact of the raid was not the prisoners who were freed. It was the message that Captain Huang broadcast throughout Imperial space before her fleet departed. "Citizens of the Empire," her voice echoed across communication networks. "You have been told that resistance is impossible. You have been told that the Empire is invincible, but we are proof that this is not true." The broadcast showed footage of Imperial ships fleeing from human forces, of human Marines rescuing Imperial prisoners, of the mighty Empire being challenged and found wanting. "We do not come as conquerors," Captain Huang continued. "We come as liberators. Any species that wishes to be free, any world that chooses independence will have our support. The Empire promised you order and security. We offer you something they never could: the right to choose your own destiny." The message spread faster than the Empire could stop it. On a dozen worlds, subject species began to whisper about the humans who had fought gods and won. Secret meetings were held. Resistance cells formed. The idea of freedom, long suppressed by Imperial rule, began to grow again. Emperor Zulthmar the Eternal received reports of the raid with fury and disbelief. No species had ever attacked Imperial territory before. No aliens had ever rescued Imperial prisoners. The very idea was an insult to everything the Empire represented. "Bring me Admiral Korvax," he commanded his servants. When the disgraced admiral arrived, the Emperor's anger was like a physical force. "These primitives have made me look weak," Zulthmar said. "My subject species are beginning to question my authority." "My Emperor," Korvax said carefully, "these humans fight unlike any species we have encountered. They do not follow the rules of civilized warfare." "Then we will stop following the rules as well," the Emperor declared. "Activate the planet killer. We will demonstrate the price of defying Imperial will." The planet killer was the Empire's ultimate weapon, a massive device that could crack a world's crust and boil its oceans. It had been used only twice in Imperial history, both times to end rebellions so completely that the very memory was erased. "Target?" Admiral Korvax asked, though he dreaded the answer. "Earth," the Emperor said without hesitation. "We will destroy their homeworld and broadcast the destruction to every Imperial citizen. Let them see what happens to those who challenge the natural order." But as the planet killer began its journey toward the human system, scouts reported something that chilled the Imperial command. Human fleets were appearing throughout Imperial space, attacking supply lines and liberating more enslaved species. The war had changed. What had begun as a simple conquest had become something the Empire had never faced before. A war of liberation that threatened to tear their 1,000-year rule apart. And at the center of it all were the humans. The species that had been supposed to surrender without a fight, now leading a galaxy-wide rebellion against Imperial tyranny. The Empire had wanted obedience. Instead, they had created the greatest threat to their rule in a millennium. Captain Taeho Kim floated in the zero gravity of the planet killer's reactor chamber, watching his team work to plant the explosive charges. 6 months ago, he had been exploring unknown space in a simple survey ship. Now he was about to destroy the most powerful weapon in the galaxy. "How much time do we have?" he asked Engineer So-Young Kim through his helmet radio. "The weapon will reach Earth in 4 hours," she replied, connecting wires to the massive fusion reactor that powered the planet killer. "But we need at least 2 hours to reprogram the targeting system." The planet killer was larger than most moons, a mechanical monster designed for only one purpose: destroying worlds that defied Imperial rule. Its approach toward Earth had been detected days ago, sending panic through the human colonies. But Admiral Sujin Park had a different plan. Instead of trying to stop the weapon, she would capture it and turn it against the Empire itself. "Remember," Captain Kim told his sabotage team, "we're not here to destroy this thing. We're here to steal it." The infiltration had been possible only because of help from an unexpected source. Kethran rebels, inspired by human rescue operations, had provided detailed plans of Imperial superweapons. Species throughout the Empire were beginning to share intelligence with human forces. In the reactor chamber, Dr. Heijin Quan worked to understand Imperial technology that was far beyond anything humans had built. Their fusion systems are incredibly advanced, she told Captain Kim. But the computers use the same basic programming languages we've seen before. That was the Empire's weakness. They had built their civilization on standardized technology. Once humans learned to hack one Imperial system, they could hack them all. Charges set, reported Sergeant Chan Wu Lim. If something goes wrong, we can still destroy this thing. Nothing will go wrong, Captain Kim said with more confidence than he felt. Dr. Choi, how are the navigation systems? Dr. Haiwan Choi was connected to the Planet Killer's main computer through a portable interface. I'm in, she said. The targeting system is more complex than I expected, but I think I can reprogram it. Meanwhile, on the Imperial capital world of Vorthak Prime, Emperor Zalthmar waited in his throne room for confirmation that Earth had been destroyed. Around him, his advisors and generals maintained nervous silence. How long until the weapon reaches the human homeworld? The Emperor asked. 3 hours, my Emperor, replied Admiral Korvax. The Planet Killer is operating normally. There is no possibility of failure, but in deep space, human engineers were proving that assumption wrong. Dr. Choi had successfully accessed the weapon's navigation computer and was slowly changing its destination coordinates. I'm redirecting it toward Vorthak Prime, she told Captain Kim. But the change has to be gradual, or their automated systems will detect the alteration. The plan was audacious even by human standards. They would use the Empire's own ultimate weapon to attack the Imperial capital, broadcasting the destruction across the galaxy to show that the Empire could be defeated. But first they had to get off the Planet Killer before it reached its new target. Extraction Point Alpha, Captain Kim ordered. Move out. The human team made their way through the massive weapons corridors, avoiding Imperial security patrols and automated defense systems. They had studied the Planet Killer's design for weeks, memorizing every passage and emergency exit. As they reached their escape pods, alarms began sounding throughout the weapon. The Imperial crew had discovered that their navigation system was malfunctioning. Sir, the Planet Killer's commander reported to Admiral Korvax, we are experiencing technical difficulties. The weapon has changed course and is no longer heading toward the human homeworld. Admiral Korvax felt a chill run through his body. Where is it heading? Unknown, sir. Our navigation computers appear to have been compromised. On Vorthak Prime, Emperor Zalthmar listened to this report with growing rage. How is this possible? The humans, my Emperor, Admiral Korvax said quietly. They must have infiltrated the weapon. The Emperor's fury was terrible to behold. For 1,000 years, no enemy had ever threatened the Imperial capital. The very idea was unthinkable. Stop that weapon, he commanded. Send every ship we have, but it was too late. The Planet Killer had already entered the Vorthak system, and its massive bulk was protected by shields that could withstand anything the Imperial fleet possessed. Captain Kim and his team watched from their escape ship as Imperial vessels desperately tried to destroy their own ultimate weapon. Particle beam weapons that could crack moons had no effect on the Planet Killer's defenses. They built it too well, observed Dr. Choi with satisfaction. Their own weapon is immune to their own weapons. As the Planet Killer approached Vorthak Prime, Dr. Choi activated the communication system that Captain Mi-jung Huang had prepared. The message broadcast simultaneously to every Imperial world, every slave colony, and every military outpost in the Empire. Citizens of the galaxy, Admiral Park's voice echoed across space. For 1,000 years, the Empire has ruled through fear. They told you that resistance was impossible, that their power could never be challenged. The broadcast showed images of the Planet Killer approaching the Imperial capital, while the mighty Imperial fleet fled in terror. Today, you see the truth, Admiral Park continued. The Empire's greatest weapon turned against their own world. Their most powerful fleet, helpless to stop it. The gods you feared are revealed to be nothing more than bullies with bigger weapons. Throughout Imperial space, subject species watched in amazement as the unthinkable happened. The weapon designed to maintain Imperial control was about to destroy the Empire itself. But at the last moment, Dr. Choi made a different choice. Instead of destroying Vorthak Prime, she redirected the Planet Killer's energy into space, creating a massive explosion that lit up the entire system without harming the planet below. Why? Captain Kim asked. We could have ended this war. Dr. Choi looked at him with sad wisdom. Because we're not them, she said simply. We don't destroy worlds full of innocent people, even if some of those people are our enemies. The explosion was visible from every world in the Vorthak system. But more importantly, it was a demonstration of something the Empire had never shown: mercy. Admiral Park's final message reached every corner of the galaxy. We could have destroyed your capital world. We chose not to. We could rule you as the Empire ruled you. We choose not to. Instead, we offer you what the Empire never did: a choice. The effect was immediate and overwhelming. On 100 worlds, slave species rose in rebellion. Imperial governors found their own troops refusing orders. Colonial administrators fled as their subjects declared independence. The Kethrans were the first to formally request membership in the Terran Commonwealth. They were followed by the Mixari, the Zephyrians, and dozens of other species who had suffered under imperial rule. Emperor Zalthamar watched his empire crumble from his throne room on Vorthak Prime. Reports flooded in of rebellions, defections, and mass surrenders. His 1,000-year rule was collapsing in a matter of days. How many worlds have we lost? He asked Admiral Korvax. Over half, my Emperor. The rebellion is spreading faster than we can respond. The Emperor looked older than his centuries. And the humans? They are not conquering the rebellious worlds, my Emperor. They are helping them establish their own governments. They seem to have no interest in ruling an empire of their own. That was perhaps the most shocking revelation of all. The species that had defeated the Empire did not want to replace it. They simply wanted to be free, and they wanted others to be free as well. In the end, the war that began with an imperial demand for human surrender ended with the Empire itself asking for terms. Not surrender. The Empire was too proud for that, but a negotiated peace between equals. Admiral Sujin Park met with Imperial representatives on a neutral space station, surrounded by delegates from dozens of newly free worlds. The agreement they reached established the Terran Commonwealth as a voluntary alliance of free species, with the Empire remaining as one nation among many. The galaxy would never be the same. The idea that might makes right had been shattered forever. In its place was something the Empire had never understood: the principle that every species, every world, every individual had the right to choose their own destiny. Captain Tae-ho Kim, who had started this war by receiving an imperial ultimatum, ended it by shaking hands with former enemies who had become reluctant allies. The Empire had expected obedience and found war at their gates. But they had also found something else they had never experienced before: the possibility of peace between equals. The age of imperial dominance was over. The age of galactic freedom had begun, and at its heart were the humans, the species that had refused to kneel and had taught the galaxy that sometimes the most powerful weapon against tyranny is simply the word no.